artificial intelligence, otherwise known as fake intelligence.
Welcome to the podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, Murray Oles. He is the president of Challax. Murray, why don't you share a bit about your role at Challax and tell us how it fits into the bigger picture there?
Well, my role at Challax is, we're co-founder and kind of general president, so I have to do pretty much everything. But, the company is an independent software vendor. We've been in business since 2002. Most of what I'm doing is business development and different kinds of ideas as it relates to our product, which is a community SaaS platform optimized specifically with services that cater to the project management groups within corporations and the need to bring products to market under circumstances that are compliant with federal and local and state regulatory requirements, and obviously within budget and now within trade agreements and all of the things that are gotchas as you try to manage and navigate your supply chain and the way your workflows operate. Go and you pick the size of the server you want. We will bring it up online for you. We'll dedicate it to your IP address, and we will brand it as a community server for your business purpose. The interesting thing about the platform is that Challax will manage those processes for you. You can have hundreds of different workflows running in real time. It's fun to work with it. And in terms of clients that we've installed it for, we've worked with, some of the very large convenience store chains like, the British Petroleum or the Sunoco or Chevron, these gas stations all around the country. And we merchandise their floor plans for the convenience store. There'll be different areas of the store that might be managed, and some of them might even be, rented out or shopped out to other vendors as points of sale for them. So it's a dynamic situation when you're in business, and we feel that if you're going to be managing workflows and processes, that the important thing is to stay in the process, that no matter what goes wrong, and something always comes up, you don't want to be jumping out of the process and losing sight of where things are. And so the process has to be agile. So if you're in a situation where you are a retailer or a consumer product manufacturer, and you have the need for a product information management platform, SmartFlow becomes that platform for you. It organically records everything you do with all of your assets, and it becomes the life cycle of the assets. It prevents you from having to constantly make sure that everybody has the most recent information. And often, you go to a meeting and everybody's got a spreadsheet, but they're not all the same version. When did you get that one? When did you get that? This way, everybody gets the same version of a document or a diagram or a best practice. And we work with besides consumer product manufacturers, you find it like in the public service industry where you have the public needing to access processes that are managed by municipalities. Then you can configure the platform for any kind of business process and engage with the people that are completing that process or working internally or externally in real time. As you start to look at where is this going and what does project management look like in a world where AI is changing everybody's perspective on, is this career path that I'm on a dead end? Is there something at the end of this? And I think that what we're finding out is, when you really get down to it, you have to create the intelligence that it has. And so, yes, it has a ton of intelligence that's derived from all of the inputs that have been taking place as you build up these chat GPTs and the Gemini 3s and so forth. But if you want it to run your business, then you really need to have a good idea of what your workflow is so that it can understand, what you want it to be and guide you to improving it. They don't tend to have automation and organization between systems and between supply chain partners. What we feel is that if you can have the ability to feed all of your activity into a AI model that has, some understanding of your business, then you have context. And if you have context, you can then get relevant information. Project managers in the future will be more of a partnership between the project manager, the product manager, and the process manager. These three disciplines have been kind of managed independently across companies. And yeah, it takes a lot to do all of those things. But when you really think about them, they are converging. The process and the product, and the projects that you are running with, they're all interactive. They're all, linked to each other.
Yeah.
You get the drift.
Yeah. So it sounds like as far as your product goes, that you are starting to integrate AI and chat and models. How has that shift in the industry impacted your own business or growth strategy?
I mean, on the growth strategy side, we're being pounded by people that would like to help us find new business through LinkedIn. And
Mhm.
I find it interesting that since Microsoft, owns LinkedIn and has such large investments in the AI world, they've opened up the LinkedIn database to the Chat GPT folks, and now there's a whole new wave of sponsorships coming at you that are using LinkedIn within AI to try to find the client that is more likely to be interested in what you have to offer today. And so we're looking at that and we're evaluating several different approaches, and it does make sense. I mean, it just does, uh, because it's starting to look at what you post. It's looking at what you're asking. It's looking at what you're reading. And it's gaining enough information to identify you as a bona fide target. So in that respect, we are beginning to use AI just to see, if we can filter through the the richer client opportunities. And then when you look at just running the business from a standpoint of generating documentation and generating proposals and just getting your communications in line, the difference in terms of the quality of work that you produce and how quickly you turn it around is kind of undeniable. At first you tended to look at AI as well, it's going to take a while. But things are moving rather quickly. The interesting thing this last week was with the Gemini 3 launch. The reviewers on this gave a lot of points to Google for, what they'd achieved. And there's a lot of rhetoric online now that says, well, Chat GPT, that's the old stuff, and now this is the new stuff. You know, and as you go around the world, everybody has got some kind of project going on. The Swiss brought out a new AI model that they released into open source under the Apache license in September. Um, it's a large language model. It's got 1,500 languages built into it. It's free. Now that doesn't mean that the computing that it's going to require to run it is going to be free. And so, as we start to look at companies making real use of AI, they can only go so far on general knowledge, on the stuff that's been loaded in off of everything that was available publicly. But the stuff that you want it to know in order to make your business more competitive, you have to teach it. And so my feeling is that if you're going to teach it, it starts with what do you do? What's your workflow? When you start a project for a client, uh, how do you analyze it? Having the knowledge to turn down business is almost as important as having the knowledge of getting business or getting the right business. The wrong business will kill you just as fast as anything. So, you know, having the tools out there that can help you uh, makes a big difference. And if you have data about how your workflow runs and how often this thing goes back for review and how often does it get done correctly the first time, you know, and you start looking at what does it cost you when how far down the supply chain does the job get? How much more expensive does it cost to correct an error that happened upstream? And these things come out of workflow. They all come out of process. Uh, but unless you can make it all actionable, then it becomes something you did and it's on the shelf over there. And yeah, we got our certificate and we've got the sign on the building that says we're ISO certified. Uh, but at the end of the day, the lift for keeping it current becomes more than, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, is what they
Yeah,
say. You know,
yeah, for sure.
so I
So
think AI is going to have a big effect. I really do. Um,
you've mentioned a lot of things about that. What's working well for you right now, and what's been frustrating about that?
Well, I think the stuff that's working well is the simple things. It works great for, I need you to write this for me. I need you to review this. I need these contracts. I need this sort of stuff. It's great. It does that very quickly. And on the graphics side, it's getting better all the time. And, you see that, the ability from different learning models to produce high quality graphics is moving rapidly. And I recall when I first got into the graphic arts business in the late 70s, there used to be type shops all over New York and all over the place. Type was set by hand. And then along came the Mac computer. And they said it would never be able to create high quality type. And all of the becauses became information that allowed Apple and Adobe and the folks that were involved in this technology to improve it and improve it and improve it. And they've eventually got to the point where it was all of a sudden nobody was in the type business anymore. They're just gone. And the same is happening in the design world, um, where you see, well, Verizon just laid off 30 designers in their design department. It was they started their big layoff. And, you know, I have friends that are in the graphics business and they had 30 and 40 designers. They started by outsourcing it off to India or something like that to get it less expensive. But now they're just running it through AI and they don't employ any designers anymore. Now, this is good enough stuff. It's, kind of commercial stuff. Whether you would consider it award-winning stuff or not, um, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But price means something. And if you can get it fast and you can get it cheap, it'll be good enough.
Yeah,
And
even
that's,
if
I think,
there's
what's really I worked in the color business my whole life, color separations. I've watched people retouch a dye transfer print 10 times to get the peachiness in the flesh tone for the Revlon stuff. And good enough is good enough. You can't spend 30 grand on a set of color separations anymore. They
yeah.
used to. They don't do that anymore.
So in your business, which metrics are you most focused on improving?
Customer satisfaction. I want, I mean, I don't like to market the product. I like it to sell through word of mouth. I want people to be happy with it. And I really want them to feel that, this is a solution that they can grow with. You start off with a few workflows, you can get more sophisticated. Once you get into firing off rules and, being more automated, it just means that you're getting more and more of your shit together, and that's really what it comes down to. You find out when you go into a workflow session with a large, team of people, a dozen, 15 people, it's kind of shocking to find out that they don't agree on what their workflow is. Uh, Yet they've been there for years, but they have, pretty much a siloed view of what they do. And, in particular, over my career, I've seen a lot of, conflict between the marketing department and the production services side of things and operations because they talk different languages. They have, a different sort of really a nomenclature for a lot of things. And it varies as you go into the pharmaceutical industry and you look at marketing and production in pharma. It's very different from marketing and production and packaging, let's say in chocolate, the or the pet food business. It's just a whole different world. And as you start to bring these folks together, the terminologies may be different, but the context is the same. You have to understand the context of what's happening in a supply chain and how, things evolve as you move through the process. And I think AI, if you're teaching it anything, you're teaching it the context of your business. And really, if you don't know what your workflows are and you haven't got them documented and you can't really share them with anyone, then you got some work to do before you could take advantage of AI. You can't just give it to AI and say, figure it out, because I haven't been able to. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So with improving your customer satisfaction, what would that change in your business? You said you don't use marketing really. Would you expect that maybe if you integrated the AI somehow with customer satisfaction, that it would be able to improve
Yeah,
your
I
direct
think the
marketing?
interesting thing is that the platform that we've built, we knew that we wanted the platform to be universal in terms of if you've got a business, you've got a process, this can help you. And so, when you start looking at all of the opportunities that are out there, uh, we feel that it's the domain knowledge about that vertical. So if you're in the insurance business and you're trying to manage risk, the domain knowledge that you have about risk and where it manifests itself and how you control it, um, that allows you to have the understanding of what it takes to train an AI model about risk. Same would be different if you were talking about the health insurance industry and trying to manage risk in that industry, or looking at public service and public services industries. So we wanted to create a product that would work for any industry, and it needs a domain expert to help configure it, bring it up, and usher it along with the client. I don't necessarily have all that domain expertise in-house, so I'm looking for people to resell the product. I want distributors more than anything, but distributors who have domain knowledge, that have expertise, that have worked in the industry, understand these workflows, and can take a platform like SmartFlow and create a gated community around that platform. The the model, the workflow knowledge model, no matter how you configure it, the contexts are pretty much the same. And so you could call it a customer, you could call it a client, you could call it, a number of different things as a label on a file or a field, but it's the same thing. It's the person that's paying for it. That's the customer, the client, however you want to define them.
Yeah.
And when you talk about an ad or a target or a vehicle, they could all be the same thing, but different, they mean different things to different groups of people. So if you're in the pharmaceutical industry and you're talking about a new product, you don't call it a product, you call it a vehicle, and you'd like, what, what? So when you're sitting in these conversations, you have to know the language, and AI could really help with that. It could learn the language, it could understand the context, and then you can begin to see that even though, they're calling it a client and this implementation is calling that a customer, it's the same thing. Their role in the workflow, overseeing things, being the head of a department, being the head of a service, or however you want to lay it out. The model itself will allow you then to understand the context between all of these uh, different implementations, and then give you a holistic understanding of what it's learning about the process, what it's learning about, you know, the number of retakes or go backs. And, remakes are the most expensive things you can do in manufacturing, custom manufacturing. If you get something wrong, like in the food world, if you put a Circle K on a yogurt dish, that means it's kosher. Oh, but if the rabbi didn't show up and bless it, then you're in real trouble, because if you let it get all the way to the shelf, you're throwing out the product
Yeah.
with the package. And so these are the kinds of things that we focus on, is looking at common understandings of process and trying to just do the simple stuff. Just don't make the same mistake over and over again.
Yeah, makes sense. So where do you want your company to be 6 to 12 months from now?
I'd like it to be a small little holding company that has a number of licensed distributors out there that are taking it into new fields and new opportunities. We've priced it so that it is not that difficult to get it up and running. You can start it at $1,000 a month. But if you're going to get into managing a multinational, you might be 10,000 a month. But it's still nothing compared to what some of them are spending at this point. And the I guess the biggest takeaway when you start to do these kinds of deployments is what you learn about your workflows, about your process, about, the team of people you have, and what your, constraints are. And AI is going to try and manage what they call constraint-based workflow. You can keep feeding the work in the front end, but if it doesn't have all of the facilities within the system to process everything, you're going to have delays, you're going to have backup, you're going to have jobs that might come in that get placed into a department that they don't have the tools to perform that job. They may have never seen it before. They have no idea. And so this is what I'm seeing in a lot of the bigger companies, that they now have centers of expertise. And the centers of expertise, although broadly known, aren't really broadly understood. And so, the one team in a plant that has a particular capability may be the only team that understands how to process those jobs. And getting to the right team and getting the job to the right, resource is essential. And it's fraught with problems when it doesn't work. When you get a job in that you thought you could do and that somebody sold because they thought that it would work, and then you have all kinds of plans going on, and then you hit that sudden realization, who sold this? Who told you you could do this? Oh, and that's really, if you've at it long enough, you'll run into a few of those.
Yeah. So when you say a holding company with others, are we
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
like affiliates?
I'm not trying to, build a very large company. I'm trying to enable a large group of people. And I would rather see independent companies picking it up and running with it and taking it into different verticals. Because my expertise is the graphic arts and the printing industry and packaging, and I've spent 40 years doing that. I don't, have the expertise to deploy a solution like SmartFlow in the healthcare industry, yet I know that it has all of the capabilities to do anything that they're currently doing with the systems that are out there. It's just a question of configuring it and labeling it correctly. Because workflow is workflow. You,
Yeah.
you know, you assign a task, you complete a task, you send it on.
Yeah. So to get that into other industries, to find those people that are the experts in those industries, if you had a magic wand to fix just one thing in your business holding you back or slowing you down from that goal, what would that one thing be?
Well, I guess it's infinite amount of money to spend on marketing because it's a black hole.
Yeah.
I mean that's the toughest thing. You get up against a lot of cash going out, when you're marketing things, and you're never really sure whether that's going to, they say what 25% of all the marketing money spent is actually effective, but we don't know which 25% it is. So,
Yeah.
it's yeah, yeah.
It's a
So
challenge to know. Well, if any of our listeners are, those experts in that industry and they want to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
probably coming to us through our website, and our partners at challaxcorp.com, CHALEXCORP. So I would say, come out to the website. My phone number is all over the place in there. You'll end up talking to me. We'll figure out whether it's something that works for you or it doesn't. And I'm really looking for people that want to take it into different verticals. Just because there's nothing preventing you from setting it up to serve a community, managing all of their community services, building permits, you name it. All of this stuff that's all paperwork and cumbersome could easily be digitized and transformed into something that's far more efficient.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks, Murray, for your time. And I loved getting to know a little bit more about your company and hear about all
Yeah.
those experiences.
Well, thanks, Jared. I enjoyed meeting you and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And for our listeners, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks.